So we're in this conversation about right the ship, where we're talking about love, sex, and dating. But a lot of what we're going to talk about is also with friendships. And maybe you just got out of a long relationship. It was painful. You're brokenhearted, or maybe you did the heartbreaking, but it's still traumatic for you. We're going to talk about that actually in a couple months. Come back and see us then. We're just trying to help you get in the boat right now, okay? And get it like kind of cast out from the, wherever you park a boat. Where do you park it? The port, I guess you could say. But out to sea, okay? And try to help that thing stay afloat. So if you're taking notes, tonight's conversation is, what is smart love? What is smart love? So you can write that down for your title. But I want us to begin with this quote that we do every February. And it is that your past will sneak into your present and start affecting your future. Your past will sneak into your present and start affecting your future. So here's what a lot of people will maybe complain or talk about. That I don't like how things are going in my present. I don't like what happened in my past. I'm worried about my future. But here's what you need to realize. It is your past, your present, and your future. So what does that mean? That means you're writing a story. And as the author of your story, you get to write in new characters, and you can write out some characters. And that's kind of what we're talking about. But to do that, you need a bit of a plan. But let's do a quick review for those who may have missed or just forgot about last week. And it's actually a quote from Doctors Les and Leslie Perot. This is where I've gotten the material for this conversation. It is actually something that if you ever ask me to do your premarital counseling, this is who we're going to talk about. Doctors Les and Leslie Perot. Look them up on YouTube. They're awesome. But here's what they said. They said that if you try to build intimacy, which that doesn't just mean sex, it means closeness. All right? Having conversations, sharing secrets, having a close relationship with someone. So if you try to build intimacy with another person before you've done the difficult work of getting whole, all your relationships will become an attempt to complete yourself. Meaning that you're just going out and headhunting people that you think can fill in gaps for you. So now your standards of dating are just, I think they're cute. And I think I'm cute. And we could be cute together. I think that our prom pictures would look really nice, right? That's what, oh, they're athletic. I'm not very athletic. I think they could complete me, right? That could be a whole. But that is not the case. No one else can complete you except for God. Only God can complete you. That's what we talked about last week. Now, week 4 of this conversation, we're going to talk about how other people are compatible to you. Other people can compliment you. We're going to dive into that and why maybe sometimes you feel like when you talk to, fellas, when you talk to a girl, it's like there was something lost in translation and she took what you said and you didn't mean it that way, but that's how she took it. And now you're like, I didn't mean it. And you're confused. Ladies, how what he said, you can't believe that he would say that. Straight to your face, how dare you? We're going to talk about that, this gender gap that we try to fill. So we're going to talk about that week 4. But they compliment you and they are compatible to you, but they do not complete you, okay? So with that in mind, we want you to date in a smart way. So real quick, on Monday, can anyone tell me what we celebrate on Monday? Just shout it out. Oh, you were so close. It's actually Singles Awareness Day. Singles Awareness Day, okay? Send a white carnation to someone that you don't think has a Valentine. No, but it is Valentine's Day. So how many of you, just a show of hands, how many of you have plans on Monday? My hand is up. How many? All right, cool. Here's what I noticed. All right, just real quick. We had 3 guys raise their hand and a bunch of girls raise their hand. So fellas, I just need you to, Monday's coming, so you might need to reconsider, do I have plans on Monday? Right? You just might need to kind of lock that in because a lot of girls were like, yeah. And they may look at you later and be like, you better have had your hand up. You better have a plan for Monday, okay? But here's what I know, that if you don't make a plan, you won't follow a path. Does that make sense? You won't be intentional with what you're doing if you don't have a plan. So real quick, let's talk about love. If I asked you to come up on stage and I handed you a microphone, I said, tell us what the definition of love is. How many of you think you could tell us the definition of love? Just raise your hand real quick. All right, we got 2, 3 brave hands, a kinda, sorta. Cool, yeah. So it's kind of like, I could say some words, but if I handed each of you a sheet of paper and I said, write down the definition of love, chances are that every piece of paper that I collected would have a different definition. So how is it that one of the elements that controls our lives every day, that we're so concerned with every day, we can't even agree on the definition of, but it controls us? So it's very easy to be controlled by something so ambiguous when you don't have a plan. So when it comes to love, I won't give you the definition, but I do want to tell you something that happens when you feel in love, okay? Ladies, when he walks into the classroom, and all of a sudden you kind of sit up straight and went, okay. I found my study buddy, right? You know, that day. Fellas, you know, the day that, you know, you just really didn't want to be there, you were half asleep, you were about to enjoy your nap in second period, and then she walked in. And all of a sudden you're like, well, I might actually try in this class, right? I'm not going to miss this class. You never miss second period because she's in there, right? That person. Let's talk about what happens physically whenever you feel that attraction to someone. And I'm not a doctor, so I have to read this straight from the sheet of paper. But here's what psychiatrists have said. They said that when a passionate attraction occurs, a chemical substance called, and I'm not in the medical field, so bear with me, phenylethylamine. Exactly. But here's what I do know. It ends in the letters M-I-N-E, so I'm going to just call it mine. So when you were sitting in class and she walked in, that mine like went off, right? Mine. Right? That's why you go crazy and act weird, because that chemical is released in your brain, causing feelings of elation and excitement, along with a physical sensation such as lightheadedness and shortness of breath. And we'll talk about breaking up a little bit later down the road, but sometimes when you break up, it's like, I just can't eat. I've lost my appetite, right? All that kind of stuff. So there is a chemical and physical reaction taking place when you are attracted to someone. So here's what you need to know when it comes to love. That how attracted you are to them does not tell you how healthy or good the relationship is for you. Just because it was, doesn't mean it won't turn into, ooh, later, okay? So here's what you should know, that falling in love requires a pulse. Falling in love requires a pulse. Staying in love requires a plan. You have been in love with people you've never even been in the room with. Right, we're talking about Spider-Man during worship. Yeah, you probably love you some Tom Holland, and you have not even been in the same room as Tom Holland. You didn't even know Tom Holland was British. You thought he was American, right? You know so little, but, right? Just because you're attracted to the person does not mean that relationship would be healthy or good for you. So you need a plan. So with that in mind, thankfully, Jesus loves us enough that we can gather a plan from something he taught about. Now, something you may not know is that you will find nowhere in the Bible where it talks about dating. It's like, so sorry if you were like looking there. It doesn't talk about dating. The culture back then was a little different than what you do now. Like there wasn't a talking period and all that. There was like a how much? And okay, that's enough, right? But an engagement period, that was common. So whenever you would get engaged, the groom, their future groom, would go off and build a house for him and his bride. And when his dad looked at what his son had built for his future bride, he would then say, okay, you've done enough, go get your bride, and they would have a wedding. So with that in mind, Jesus was asked about divorce, and we looked at this last week. We'll look at it again because he gives us a plan. He was asked about divorce, but he answered and responded with marriage. And here's what he said in Matthew chapter 19, verses 4 and 5. He said, haven't you read that at the beginning the Creator, meaning God, made them male and female? For this reason, everybody say this. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother, translation, he will leave home and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. Translation, they will make a home. So here's what that means for you. Here's your plan. That whenever you are prepared to leave home, that means you're ready to start a home. I would not leave home for just anyone. Ladies, just if I lost you at some point, just look up here real quick. Ladies, please don't leave your parents' home for just anyone. But Josh, he drives a Tesla. You're not hearing me. You're not hearing me. Don't just leave home for anyone. Fellas, just real quick, if I lost you at some, fellas, please don't leave your parents' home for just anyone. But Josh, she has like 60,000 followers on Instagram. Don't leave home for just anyone. That means that 60,000 people are going to realize how embarrassing your breakup was. That's what that means, okay? So don't just leave home for anyone. But here's the catch to it as well. Don't prepare and plan to build a home with just anyone. Tonight, I want you to leave with a plan, with an image in your mind of what you want your dream home to be like. Now, you're going to say, oh, I want brown brick. I want chrome molding, right? Chrome molding, it's a car. All right, parked in the driveway. I want a 4-car garage, Josh, right? I want it to be 2 stories. I want it to be located here. That's great, but here's what I want you to know. What does your home sound like? What will your future home sound like? And now, what will your future home sound like when you two are not getting along with each other? How will your arguments sound? Oh, I know he had better not. Oh, I know she won't disrespect me like that. She ain't gonna, I pay for this. She ain't gonna disrespect me. You will be single, divorced real quick, right? So you need to consider, how will we maintain this home? It's not about the physical appearance. It's what's on the inside and how you relate with one another and what you value yourself and what you value in that other person. So you need a plan, or you'll end up in some house, in some relationship, that you'll just drift off course, then you'll end up there. So we want a plan to make sure we're getting where we're going. So with that, can we talk about your plan? All right, here's your plan. Write this down. My plan is smart love. My plan is smart love. I'm going to talk to you about how to love smartly. Not really a word, but we're going to go with it. How to love smartly. Your first step to love smartly is to set values and standards for yourself. And that's what you worked on in your discussion time. So it asked you things like, hey, what is your bottom line in this area of your life? We call those here at Squad your guardrail. So notice that a guardrail is always located inside the safety zone, right? So I have a value, like my life when I'm driving down the road. That's important to me. So the guardrail is set inside where the road is still there. So for example, the guardrail for this stage is not where the row of chairs are. If it were, I would fall off the stage. Happened before. But the guardrail for my safety would be inside the stage, so that if I bumped into the guardrail, I'm still okay. So you need to set values, and then you need a guardrail for that value. So for example, the values that you set should be core values, things that are so important to you that no one can shift or change your mind about it. It's not a value to say, I'm not a dog person. That's not a value, right? That doesn't like articulate who you are as a person. I don't like dogs, right? Because you could see a puppy, or you can meet a dog that's nice and that you actually like, and you're like, oh, okay, I am a dog person, right? That doesn't change who you are. That's just a preference thing. A core value would be something like your faith. If your faith is that important to you, I want you to consider tonight, do I want my future home, my dream home, to be a home of faith? And if so, then I would take that home of faith and say, you know what, it's important to me, it's a value, so I want to make sure that my future home, it has one of the beams, the foundational beams, the structure beams that helps support the home, that one of those beams is going to be my faith and our faith, right? And it could be a thing that like, faith is big for me. I want to be big for my children. So faith is one of those, okay? Another beam may be that sex. You want to save sex for your dream home. Josh, why is it important to save it for my dream home? It's 2022. All the movies I watch, all the shows I see, it always says that it's just fine. Have you noticed that any movie where there's a happy ending and the couple gets together right at the end, and like, I do, right, and they get married or whatever, they never show what happens after the wedding. Here's what I want to make sure that you don't fall in this trap with, is that you think that you can just get your friends and family together one day, and you can look at the person that you care most about in the world, and you can make a promise to them and to God, and then throw a party, and then everything's going to be okay. Don't spend more time planning for the wedding than you do preparing for the marriage, or this dream home can fall apart. So there might be some beams and decisions and values that maybe you've already made that permanent decision, and maybe sex, you've already made that decision. You've already been physical and had sex with someone that wasn't your future spouse. Like, well, Josh, what do I do now? You come back week 4. That's what you do now, okay? But that doesn't mean that it's all over. It means that you can start your values tonight so that on your wedding day or during premarital counseling or at some point in this very serious relationship, you can look at the person that you love the most and say, I have been honoring you since February 2022. I've made some decisions that helped us have the dream home that both you and I want. Why? Because I had values in place and guardrails to protect those values. So maybe it's faith. Maybe it's sex for you. I'm saving that for my future spouse. And here's something I often say about sex is that what separates your spouse and the person you love the most with your other dating relationships if you've been having sex with everyone you've dated. The only thing that's different is that they live in this house. But the thing you're not considering is what that decision and those decisions is going to impact your future spouse and the tension that it's going to bring up. We'll talk about it week 4. Come back and see us, okay? But what are your values? Only you can come up with those. So let's dig a little bit deeper and explain why that would be a value. So first off, first step in your smart plan to love and dating is you need to come up with your list of values. Step number 2, pay attention to the other person's values. Now, at some point as the relationship gets serious, you need to have a conversation with each other because, as we've said before you say I do, you need to say I did, or this can all fall apart. You need to have that conversation. But you need to pay attention to what they value as well. Well, Josh, I don't think he wants to have any kind of conversation like that. He just always wants to make jokes and watch funny movies. I know, I get it. Right. But he is communicating what he values. Fellas, she is communicating what she values. Here's how you can know that when it comes to values and trying to pay attention to them, how do they treat themselves? Think about it, like conversations they've had. How do they carry themselves? How do they treat themselves? For example, when you ask them about their day, are they always the victim in every story? Oh, this teacher just coming for me. She always this is the right assignment. Just always finding something I did wrong. They do not like me. They do not like me at school. My employer does not like me. My parents do not like me. I don't like me. It's like, how are you always the victim? There is no plot in any kind of genre of movies or TV shows where it's the same victim all the time. Peter Parker is not saving the same person well, Mary Jane a little bit, but she finds herself around it, right? So are they always a victim? Because here's what you should know. That says something about how they see other people around them. That they're always feeling attacked by other people, so it won't be long until they feel like you are attacking them. Which is also why when you have a conversation with them to try to correct them, they feel like you're attacking them. And your emotion to help them, they interpret as hurt, and now they're mad at you. And now you have no plans on Monday for Valentine's Day, right? So that's full circle. But pay attention to how they talk about themselves, and are they always the victim? Another one you can do is you can look at their spending habits. if they have a job and they get paid, and the same day they get paid, they also tell you, I'm broke, either they really don't like you and they don't want to spend any money, like no gift on Monday, or they have bad spending habits. Like he's always just like wanting more things on video games, and that's where it always goes to, but his car is still making that noise. It still smells the same. There's something. He has one chore. It's to cut the grass, and the grass is never cut. Like these are things that you can help identify. Are they a reliable person? Do they have good habits? Because that money that he is not spending very well will someday be your money that is not being spent very well. And then you have to downsize from your dream home to the other home because the habits were never there. But what if you began looking after your money now? And you did the whole give, save, live thing, where if you have a job, you get your money, you give 10% to God as a tithe and offering. You save because you know what you want, how much it's going to cost, whether it's books for college or just money for college or a car, whatever it is. You save however much each month or each paycheck, that percent, and then you live on the rest. So yeah, it may take you 2 paychecks before you can afford to go to the movies, but you're building a discipline in your life. That's part of those guardrails because you're trying to protect your finances for your dream home, and you can do that right now. So there's part of it as well. The other thing to consider is how do they treat the people around them? Respectful, reliable? How does he talk about mom, dad? How does he act around mom, dad? How does she talk about mom, dad? Because get this, ladies, despite how cute he is and just how like he just takes your breath away, all that stuff, no one is ever going to love him more than mom loves him. Fellas, despite how bombshell she seems to be, no one is ever going to love her more than daddy loves her. So how is she talking about him? Speaking to them. Because that's mom and dad, right? So you can see what they value. And maybe one of the things that you value most in this world would be your family time. And you want to make sure that your home is always scheduled with family time together. And you tell him, hey, I'm so excited that you made the team. I'm so grateful that you're on the baseball team. You're getting to do what you love with your friends. But you have to realize that on Friday nights, that's family dinner night. My grandparents come over. That's important to me. I will not be at your Friday night games. I'll be there on Tuesday, but I won't be there on Friday. Why? Because it's important to me. So what does he value? What does she value? So to kind of close this out, this is close 1, right? It's going to end quickly, but this is just the first part of the close. If he doesn't respect what you value, then he does not respect you. If she does not respect what you value and what's most important to you, then she does not respect you. And that should say something about where that relationship is going. So just consider, monitor. That's your plan, right? This is what I value. This is what's important to me. I can see what's important to you. If they disrespect that, then that should be a red flag. For example, if you say, hey, I want to save sex for marriage, and fellas, you're not equipped to leave home, get a house, build a house for your future family, and get married, then you should not be indulging in sex. If you're not ready for all of that and that comes with it, according to what Jesus said in your plan, you probably should sidestep that. So if you've told him, ladies, I'm saving sex for marriage, and he keeps pressuring you, asking you to send pictures, and you even maybe one of your guardrails was that we'll never be left alone. Like if we're hanging out somewhere and our friends leave and we're left alone, then we're going to leave too. Maybe that's one of your guardrails. Or you have the bathing suit guardrail. Anything that my bathing suit touches, I don't want you to touch. And he keeps doing that, then he does not respect you or your values. And he's trying to destroy your dream home. That's what that means. So with that in mind, let me give you an example of a plan. All right, so here's an example of a plan that you can use. Step 1, a dating plan would be that you talk to the person you're interested in dating to their face. It sounds weird, but a lot of first steps and only steps are just digitally. You send a DM, you go through a friend, but you should have a conversation to their face. Ladies, please know that it takes a lot of courage to come up and talk to someone who looks like you. Ladies, you got to know that. So please just applaud the boy for even trying to have the conversation, all right? At least hear him out. But talk to them. Have a conversation with them. See if they're interested in dating you. Number 2, ask to take her on a specific date to a specific place at a specific time. For example, hey, would you be interested in going this Friday to the basketball game here at home because my friends Chris and Tucker play on the basketball team? And I just wanted to go support my friends. Would you like to come with me and we could go get dinner beforehand? What do you say? Again, ladies, it take a lot of credit for him to even come up and talk to someone who looks like you to ask that, okay? But here's what he just told you. I have a plan, and I think you're important enough. I value you enough to have a plan, and I value my friendships. So will you come with me to help support and value my friendships? That's what that communicates. You're seeing his values played out. If he just beats around the bush, hey, how about, I don't know, sometimes he has no plan, and I don't know if he ever will get a plan, right? So that's showing you a little bit that he has a plan. So that would be a great step to have that conversation, invite her to a place that's specific. But here's number 3, probably the most important. You need to meet her parents and ask them for permission. Meet her parents and ask them for permission. Fellas, if you zoned out at any point, I need you to tune in right now. Meet her parents and ask them for permission. Here's why that is so important. The person you're about to take to the basketball game is the most valuable person on this planet to her mom and dad. Treat her like she is the most valuable person on this planet to her mom and dad. Ladies, here's what I need you to know. That when he asked you to this basketball game, you don't even like basketball. Like, I hope they scored a touchdown, right? You don't like basketball. This boy is the most important young man on this planet to his mom and dad. Treat him like he is the most important. Even if it's a no for now or you're not interested, treat him with honor and respect because he is the most important. And it lets him know how you value people and how you want to be valued. So with that in mind, that's exactly what I did whenever me and Marissa started dating. I had a 45-minute conversation with her brother at the Shell gas station. And a few weeks later, before I ever asked her to be my girlfriend, I had a conversation. I asked her to leave the room. And I had a conversation with her mom. Are you okay with me dating your daughter? Dad and brother were not in the room at the time, so I called them on the phone. They were in line at Taco Bell. They didn't ask me what I wanted. No big deal. Are you okay with me dating your daughter? Are you okay with me dating your sister? Because they already had their dream home. She was not yet leaving home to be with me. So they had an intact home, and I wanted to make sure I left it intact. Are you okay with me being an addition to what you've already built? And it gains respect with their parents. Side note, fellas, this is kind of manipulative, but just side note. Don't you want somebody in your corner whenever there's an argument between you and Boo? So can you imagine if you ask permission from mom and dad that all of a sudden when y'all are fussing and arguing, she won't even return your text. You know she read it. And then dad says, hey, you better call that boy. Don't you want that? You better respond to that boy. Come on now. I don't know what's going on, but you better call him. Don't you want somebody fighting in your corner? It can happen if you treat the most valuable person in their lives as a very valuable person. Step number 4. Your next thing that you need to do is after about 3 dates, whenever it starts getting serious, you need to have a conversation on here's what I value. Here's what I value as a person. Here's what I value in my relationships, trust, all these kind of things that are important to you, and communicate your guardrails and your standards. And if those get broken by that person, that is your indication this relationship has reached its end. Why? Because I have a plan. And you just told me you didn't want to be a part of it because you tried to take me off course. So, with that in mind, here is your final question. And it comes actually from something Paul wrote in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21, and then we're going to close. But Paul said, when it came to Christian households, he said, submit to one another in reverence to Christ. Submit to one another out of reverence to Christ. Here's what you may read that and think, I should bend to the will of the person I want to date and become whatever they do and do whatever makes them happy. That is not what I said. That is not what Paul wrote. Paul said, submit to each other. So at your age right now, here's one of the biggest parts of your current plan and the stage you're in is to become someone worth submitting to. So that when you have that conversation in your future with your future spouse, who you hope it is, that he looks at you and says, wow, your values are, and you've held on to them, and they're intact and they're important to you. I would do anything for you. Just like that movie Inside Out, I would die for, right, whatever her name, the boyfriend that kept popping, I would die for, right? That, you would submit to someone like that. So who are you becoming? Because step 3 in smart love is you don't change who you are for smart love. And you don't try to change the other person when you're trying to love smart. Because those are your core values. So who are you becoming? So with that in mind, squad, can you make a plan beginning tonight to date smart? And as we close, I did want to share this with you. And I know we are going over a few minutes, but hey, y'all were late getting here too. So let me close with this real quick. I want to make sure you leave here knowing what love is and what love looks like. And John tells us about it through something that he experienced. So check this out. 1 John chapter 4. It'll be on the screen for you. It says, dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. And this is how God showed his love among us. So when you're trying to think about, like, how do I express love? What exactly is love? I've never felt love before, Josh. Oh, you have. Here it is right here. This is how we know that God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. So, dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. When God sent his Son to die for you and for me, he immediately became someone worth me submitting to. Because now I know what love is. So as you date, as you have friendships and relationships, become someone worth submitting to. But hold on to what your values are. And I hope and pray that it begins with your relationship with your Heavenly Father, because he loves you the most, and you are the most valuable person to him. Let me pray for us. Hey, thank you so much for watching this message at CrossPointe Church and our youth group. If you want to receive Christ as your personal Savior, we're so excited for you making that decision, but perhaps you want to know more about what that means and, of course, what's next. So please go to the description, check out those links to find out more information, and, of course, reach out so we can schedule your baptism whenever you're ready. But thank you again for watching. Have a great rest of your week, and we love you guys.